We're only 12 minutes late today.
Improving.
It's so if the ratio of like lateness to screw ups kind of like shakes out, like the later we are, the less I'll have initial screw ups. Like I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Welcome everybody. Episode 3. Trimark Twitch Happy Hour of Hacking Demystified. My name is Danny Akoski at, as most people pronounce it, Dekaki on Twitter. And I'm okay with that. I don't like. I honestly like my worst nightmare is people being like, "Hey man, oh, what are unique last name? How do you pronounce it?" You don't actually care, and you don't actually want to know. It's a courtesy that you think I might care that you care how to pronounce it, and I don't. It's however you want. I've heard Iraqi for some reason. Daraki, the Daskaski. I do actually have a little bit of Russian in me. I found that out. Thank you, 23andMe.
Danny starts off the stream by saying, I don't really care how you pronounce it, but here's why I'm pissed off that you pronounce it wrong.
No, I'm not pissed off about the wrong pronunciation. It's the insistence that they think that they want to know how to pronounce it. They don't. Nobody does. My wife didn't even take my last name. I encourage her to not take my last name. Why would I wish that on anybody? My poor son is going to have the absolute worst time in life.
Didn't you retweet earlier about Kelsey making fun of his dad? And
yes.
Talking about how it's supposed to be Kels?
Yes.
And it was like, and you just fucking went with it?
I absolutely did that.
That was awesome. So it's just like that. Just go with it, Danny.
Just going like that. Oh, look, somebody joined late and messed up everything for me. Who did that? Oh, Dev left. No, you know what?
He said his mic was not working.
Okay.
So.
However, I do know not to panic because once Dev rejoins, everything will go back. So until then, people viewing have this abstract nightmare of a visual, which is currently Brandon very tiny. Our Brandon, Red Siege Brandon, is somewhere in the ether. I have a weird half dome of Jake's head where it's just the way I have stuff set up.
Go to the side, Jake. You'll be fine. We'll be fine. The other left.
By the way, if that song sounded familiar to anybody, it is very old. That's Sneaker Pimps. You know what? We're just gonna keep it like this.
I like watching Jake try to figure out how to get on
yeah.
camera like this.
I don't understand video.
Jake, your left or my left?
Lean right. You're right.
Right or you're right?
You're right. There you go.
There.
And now
just stay like that.
Oh, no. And now do a little jump. Just do a little jump because your head's gonna pop up. Dance, puppet. No, I need you to stay right where you are right now. And now he left. Where are you? Oh, okay. No, stop.
I'm here.
We're really gonna talk about this.
All right.
Can you believe Sean thought this was a great idea? As normal, well, we normally have Dev. Dev is unscrewing something up in his world. He'll join us shortly. But we also have our Brandon at Tech Brandon on Twitter. Brandon's one of our Trimark superstars. Jake Hildreth. ... Pause for effect.
3 dots. ...
Horse. I said a pause for effect. And one of our, I do honestly, as much of a fan as I can be, about vendors, I am a fan. I love Red Siege. I love what Tim has done. And so I invited, as they wished, anybody from Red Siege to join our Discord and hang out with us. So we have Brandon from Red Siege. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Just hopping over.
So last week, Brandon also hopped in, and I was already well off to the races putting out other fires. So we're like, no, dude, come hang out this time. Yeah. So we per Dev, but Dev's not here anymore.
I see him back, I think.
Oh, is he back?
Yeah.
Dev, are you back now?
Your plan did not work. Oh, still no microphone though, Dev.
Oh,
Maybe he's double muted.
are you double muted?
Honestly,
What
I kind of
happens if
like
you-
it better this way.
Yeah.
But if you just turn your headphones off and use like the crappy inboard microphone as a test.
He's gonna join from his phone. We're gonna get some Dev Witch project going on.
All right. Until then, I am going to change a little bit of, because I mean, it was funny for a second, and now it just looks annoying.
This is us demystifying how to stream using Discord.
I see Dev. He looks handsome as ever. I love. Oh, no, hey, you left again. So yeah, we've been talking past few weeks hacking Demystified. We've been talking about how to do it. Again, my bellwether is things like the net. And oh, dude, you know what was on? You know what was on? Anybody who watches this later, there are certain movies and certain books and certain media, I think, that once you get into either the business side of InfoSec or just hackerdom, right, like is required reading / watching. For me, I don't care. It's definitely Swordfish. It's definitely Hackers. It's Sneakers. God, there was another one with Robert Redford, I think. No, Gene Hackman, where it was before Sneakers. No. Gene Hackman before Enemy of the State. It was like in the 1970s, and he was like a spy, like he was like an eavesdropper spy type person. God, it was so good. The Wire, The Conversation. Thank you, Jedi. The Conversation, very good. The Conversation. If you have never watched that, somebody recommended that to me like about 6-8 months ago, and I watched it, and it's actually it has a cool kind of arc at the end where you can definitely imagine him going off grid, and then the sequel is kind of Enemy of the State, as he runs from the enemies that he made in the first one. But before we get into all that, since we do have a new guest on, Brandon, what do you do? Where are you from? What do you do?
So I am a senior security consultant at Red Siege, which just means that I'm not terrible at pen testing, and they can have me do engagements by myself. I've been doing it for a while. I used to be in the government space as an operator for the Air Force, and yeah, I break things. I am a tech debt collector, and that's it. I'm a massive troll. I used to run the largest meme generator for the intelligence community, Spicy Memes. So if anyone was former military, you probably heard of that one. But yeah, but that's it. I forward things through burp, and I click a lot, and then enter key, no click.
Was the Air Force your first foray into this? Is that like you started there, or were you into hacking before that?
No, so I was into Linux. I started in network security only because of a mishap with some person's Excel during boot camp, and they said, "Yeah, I can't let you go in this terrible career field. I'm going to push you to network security." Got there, and I installed phones. And then after 5 years, I said, "Wow, I want to get out." And my friend convinced me to go to cyber warfare. So once I got there, I ended up, doing really well and went to Cyber Command, and it was a really good 5 years doing all that jazz, worked on some of the elections, and then I decided I wanted to get out, and that was it. Working remotely is important to me. My wife dragged me down to Mississippi, which is not a tech fantasy land, and so now I get on happy hours and things to talk to people who don't want to talk about crawfish.
Well, point of order, sir. Isn't it Mardi Gras now? It is Mardi Gras now.
It is, yes. Yep, we had our first parade last week. My kids got moon pies and beads and had a great time.
I did 2 stints in Louisiana. One in Lafayette. And my first year in Lafayette, my wife worked for the local radio stations down there, and I got my very first Mardi Gras ever. I got to ride in the Lafayette Mardi Gras parade, which is like they don't let just any Yankee do that. They were very nice though.
I mean, it's a badge of honor. You have to pay a lot of money to have a float and keep it and store it.
Absolutely,
and,
you do.
Spend money on beads and stuff. Yeah.
Oh my God, have you ever been in a parade?
No, but I have family that do it. It was.
The other cool thing is like all the daiquiri, like how they stocked up the floats with jugs of daiquiris. And the drive-through daiquiri stands that exist in Louisiana that nobody believes me about.
That blew my mind when I went to visit my family in Louisiana. Was like, you can just go pick up a daiquiri down the street. I'm like, what?
Like 7-Elevens, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just you leave the wrapper on the straw and you're good to go, allegedly.
Oh, yeah.
Or the piece of tape on the top of the cup to hold it shut, so it's for use when you get home. Yeah.
Yep. When I met my wife, she was in school in Mississippi, and she ended up going to law school and in New Orleans. So we would go and pick up daiquiris on the way from the airport because I was commuting long distance or dating long distance. So it's real, and they love their alcohol. So
yeah, when my wife was living down there, I was commuting and like visiting her because I lived in Pennsylvania. So I would fly Delta like once because I was getting paid like security money, so why not? And I would fly Delta like once a month, twice a month to go see her. So I would love to talk about crawfish and all of that stuff, but apparently we have to talk about computers or else Sean gets very mad at us. So we're
just like one thing is all we need to do, and then we can go back to crawfish.
Yeah. All we gotta do is get enough highlight clips to like put up to like give out to people, and then the rest of it can all just be whatever the hell we want to talk about. Dev, do you have audio now? No. How about, do you have a whiteboard you can write on? So whenever you have something to say, or I don't know, can we put you in a chat? We can do that. What's going on with your headphones?
I feel like his background should have little words that he can put into it. It should be interactive.
Just pointing to the words, reactions.
So we had covered a lot of that, and I really wanted to have to talk on this one because we were going to talk about how like unfancy or unmystical exploit development is.
Well, I think Brandon from Red Siege kind of pointed it out. What he does as a senior pen tester is runs Burp Suite and hits enter a lot. You know?
Yeah.
It can't demystify it more than that.
Oh no.
So
yes, now I can hear you.
Oh, good. I mean, you just want to have to dig into things,
right?
You don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to be a developer. You just have to break things down, see how they work, and then just Google frantically how to modify those commands to get something that's usable. And the more you do, the better you get. I'm not going to mention the Chad GPT, but yeah, that's pretty cool for people who haven't done. You can bridge those gaps, and all it is just breaking stuff and making it do what you don't want to, which is kind of essentially what pen testing is. Now, if you get to a point where you're not using built-in tools and something doesn't meet what you want, then you obsess over it for a couple weeks, and at the end of that, maybe you'll have something that works, or maybe you won't, and you'll come back to it in 6 months and repeat. But it's not as mystical as one would think.
Just a word on burp. How was I the only one when they were first learning it and kept forgetting to turn it off and on and wondered why nothing was getting generated?
Oh yeah,
I had that
all the time.
After you're done with the session and you're like, oh, it's time to just look at real websites, and you're like, oh man, internet's down
again. Yeah,
I had that with a. Good.
I was gonna say, can you repeat the question? I'm trying to figure out what the topic you guys are talking about.
The one that you told us to talk about, demystifying exploit development.
Oh. Well, my experience has always been listen, man. If anytime I'm going after a site or a target, I should say, not a site because I don't actually hack sites. That's illegal, and I don't do anything illegal, for the record. But anytime I'm going after a target, I mean, the best thing is to try looking at it from a normal user standpoint and then break it down what all the comms are. That's what I normally do, and then establish a connection that way. Because you got to remember, people programming these things, they want to make it easy. Most developers are lazy. So they're going to leave things open, expose, and access so that they can actually do the same thing. And if you can leverage that, that's like the easiest way in. So that's what, like 95% of what I do is basically just understanding the network and the communication and then going off there.
Brandon from Red Sage, do you do any like white box testing, or is it all black box stuff?
I've done some white box stuff. I would also consider anytime I get like an Android app to be kind of white boxy, unless like the Kotlin stuff can't be decoded. But so many times it's not even necessary. You can infer it from the functionality of the app, and then also developers don't remove their comments from production. So yeah, it's.
Well, that was going to be my question. Like, I've people that do white box stuff, like you have the code, but that is not necessarily what you're really. Just because the developer is telling you this is how this code should work, doesn't mean it's really how it's working in real life. So I was wondering if you spent like some time in advance, using it as a normal user, and then that figuring out how it's supposed to or how it is working before digging into the code.
So I think having time is something as a consultant I really don't have enough of. So as I tell people getting into pen testing, the biggest thing is you find something that you've never seen before, that you have one day to completely understand at a level that someone who works on it day in, day out knows, and then you have to break it and then write a report on it and be able to tell them how to fix their thing that you've never seen before. It gets easier with experience, but I've seen where white box testing does not really give anything to assist the black box testing. Sure, there will be API calls or functions, but generally looking through for passwords, strings, that tends to be more beneficial. But it's just. I don't know, I had a client last year that wanted to get rid of black box testing and just do white box because they had a history of including SQL injections in their code. They didn't want to test anything interactively. They didn't want to bid on it. And we ended up turning them down because they were trying to game their testing to get approval without actually having the interactive testing. So it's, I feel like I'm going down some bunny trails on that one. But, whatever I rates a pen tester. But yeah, I don't really see as much of a value in white box pen testing other than looking through strings, especially for the customer's time. Attackers are generally not going to have white box. You want to kind of replicate what an attacker is going to do. And while you do help fill the gaps, I think that stuff's more suited for an internal red team or internal security. So it just depends. Are you internal or are you external? And what kind of scoping can you do for that client? I think the hardest part is just, having to do a really quick pace test, but still be thorough and dig through everything. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's one thing that I always, talking to another pen testing buddy, is like, I wish I just had more time every time. Actually, talking to Jim on our team here too, we're not doing pen testing, but it's like if I had 6 months, it would be so much better than having my 6 weeks, so.
Yeah.
What is it? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Companies like Black Hills are moving towards the pen testing as a service, and some people are doing the CAS continuous standing. Some people are just having a service where they touch it as they go, so they can split it up in time and gain the ability to understand what's going on. And there's some advantage to that. There's some disadvantages. It really just depends on what you can market to your client, and as long as you're a company that cares, that has employees that care, about their customers being secure and aren't just doing it for a paycheck, then you're going to probably get your money's worth. There's even people that, it's not just the Nessus scan, but if they are just trying to, underbid, do not enough work, or overbid and not do enough work, it's just, that grinds my gears.
Have you ever run into a situation where a client asks you to redact the report to some degree, or to make it a little bit more digestible for themselves?
So I have had clients ask for summary tests. I have had them ask for ones that can be given to clients that only detail external. I have had a lot of people push back and say, I don't want this finding in there because I don't see this as a security threat. Or, hey, you actively caused client desync on my server, but that's a third-party vendor, so that shouldn't be a finding for our external. And yeah, or we don't see a risk with our product, but let's scope the most minimal pen test we can because we don't want to. And you just have to stick to your guns on that. It's seeing projects where the third-party developer kind of has run of modifying the scope of the engagement has caused frustrations, and then also inadvertently volunteering myself as the project manager for that because the client doesn't really care, the third-party developer does not care, but it's that it's just frustration. It's a frustrating job. You're looking for needles in haystacks. You have to always learn, be on top of it. There's not really, maybe you can coast, but it's high stress. But for people that require that to scratch that itch of wanting to discover, wanting to break things, it's a good job. So yeah, I love breaking things. I love taking it apart, and that feeds into why I love what I do. But if I wanted to coast and just do sell Palo Alto to an MSSP for probably twice as much money, that'd be cool. But that doesn't make me feel proud. That doesn't get me up in the morning. So yeah.
What percentage of your clients would you say are like when you deliver are truly happy? Like, can you make your clients happy, or is it always it's either not enough or too much or wrong, I guess?
So I will say that I'm a little bit biased in that because as someone who's put a lot of effort into his reports testing, I usually don't get that. But another thing with that is, and I'm actually I'm trying to talk at Wild Wild Hacking Fest about this, is effective communication is probably one of the most important skills. That's the real hack. Managing the client's expectations, making sure they're not surprised with the report. When I was at the job before Red Siege, we would give them a biweekly update where we would say, here's what we found, here's what we're going to do next. And our goal was for them to not have any surprises on the report. There would be nothing on there that they did not already know about, or if it was minor, it didn't matter. But at Red Siege, our clients are almost always coming back with great feedback about how professional we are. You can go to redsiege.com/sample and see our reporting style. As a person who hates writing, I just want to hack things. It's terrible. Red Siege has really high standards for their reporting. Every finding has a remediation step where the client can run these commands as broken down as simply as possible so they can do it themselves, add it to their toolbox, and secure themselves through using the built-in or the red team tools that exist on the market. We're not telling them load up Cobalt Strike and do X. We're giving them, here's this command, here's how you do it, and then here's what the results should look like if you've remediated it. And then the other thing for a walkthrough is we give every tool a general overview of the tools we used, links to them, how we used it, what the results were, linking figures. It's a lot. But customers are almost always impressed with it, and so I am proud of that. Even though I absolutely hate writing and organizing my thoughts and putting it down on paper, but I have not seen a bad review come back at Red Siege. I've only been here since September, so I'm actually new to the team.
So the question about that, about bug bounty, how do you guys see that played in, and how much of either a positive or negative impact has that had on you on what you do day to day?
I haven't seen it affect our job space at all. It's great. My friends that do government contracts for red teaming and stuff have not seen their jobs affected by government bug bounties. I have friends working for security teams or venture capitals, and I haven't seen that there. It's nice, but I don't know. I haven't really seen an interaction with it. I know it finds a lot of the good low-hanging fruit if they're in the program. It doesn't seem to stop a lot of that. And
well, that's part of the concern I have, is that companies have that misconception that, oh, they're part of a bug bounty now, so by de facto they're more secure, or that they don't need to go through the extra steps. And
so when's the last time you found an external finding on a client, like a real one? And sure, there might be information disclosure, but the external perimeters of companies, minus cloud, are shrinking. And honestly, I haven't had a win on an external client in maybe a year and a half. That's kind of where your bug bounties are going to be. The web apps that I've tested, a lot of the low-hanging fruit will be kind of eaten up. Your bug bounties generally aren't doing internal. They aren't doing assumed breach. They aren't phishing. They aren't, people will be scanning for your API on the internet, but are they going to know to fuzz a certain endpoint? That's the kind of stuff that we end up getting findings in, because Russia and China scanning the internet every couple minutes has already found these things. They're owning these things. So I don't think, unless there's internal bug bounties, which would be a terrible idea, let's let people who don't know about tradecraft and security and not running things that would take down systems inside your network.
Let's do it at colleges and stuff. Let's do that. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
I tried to do a pen test for the college I went to, and they were too scared of a pen test they had 6 years earlier, so they didn't want to do them anymore. So,
well, their students are doing them for them. That's why.
I wish. It would have been fun. Yeah. We tried to get I was at UMGC just to kind of finish up a degree, because it was the military thing, and no offense to UMGC, but it was a useless degree. You just kind of work through the motions on the cyber stuff. And the cyber team, which I'm a part of and I mentor a lot in, we asked to set up labs, be able to test things, and they resisted on all fronts. So here's to hoping that doesn't get owned someday in the future soon.
Brandon, investigator chick in the chat, I wanted to ask, what's your impression of how, and I actually want to know this too, what's your impression of how pen tests in the cloud differ from traditional ones?
So on one hand, it's different because you don't own the infrastructure, and you aren't in charge of the infrastructure security and the underlying mechanisms, and that's where a lot of this stuff is coming in. People have a better mindset about secure defaults in an internal network. If you look at Andy Robbins's talks on Azure exploits, how long it took from the introduction of Active Directory and Kerberoasting, even Timidine, and it took so long until these different exploits were coming up, like resource-based constrained delegation. It was 10 years maybe, and we're just starting to get into Azure exploits. These things have not been found yet. These exploits are still there. The tools there are very little tools being built in the space because people haven't mapped out and understand the APIs. I know Carl Fossen and Andy are both working on like Graph API and trying to see what roles can do what. Andy released Bark recently, which is a Bloodhound. I think it's Azure. Sorry, I don't know the name, but it'll actually take all the roles from an Azure tenant and it'll run through and try and test for common privilege escalation techniques, and as they get added, they put in there, which is super cool. But there are very few tools being made. There are very few people testing in these. And as far as pen testers go, I recommend you get into AWS testing and Azure testing because that is probably one of the most needed things right now. For the amount of Azure that we have and AWS, there's just not enough people testing or knowing the inner workings of these and how to navigate them. I did the Dark Side Ops class, I think last year or the year before for Azure from NetSpy, and that was really good. There's a lot of good courses, but it's just different.
That and there's so much in the black market that it's more profitable for people to actually go and to sell what they find, even if it's just a smidge, not even a full POC. If they can sell aspects or documentation, the black market pays a ridiculous amount of money. Not that I'm advocating for that, but
How would you know, Dev?
Yeah, Dev. How would you know?
I'm just saying, like, I got people. I talk to people. I know people. But it's like that's another thing I try to tell companies is like that's great that you're doing pen testing and all this other stuff. But if you're not up on your OS end or you're not even looking in the dark markets, there's stuff that you might be exposed to, or there's might be even bugs on your network that you're not even aware of. And those are secondary checks I definitely can highly recommend people to start doing.
Can we dig into I'm curious on the dark market stuff because from my previous job, we would have like vendors come in or somebody do like an assessment of it and say, "Oh, your information's on the dark web," and it's like, well, yeah, I mean everybody's information's on the dark web, right? But how would you go about doing that yourself, or like investigating yourself, or is there an easy way to do that, or a responsible company that you can hire that does stuff like that?
Normally what I would do is the first thing is go after a data broker and work with them to understand exactly what data is out there and see if you can use them to purchase or procure the data in a private sec way. So not all data, once you bought it, is available to the public or available to anyone. There's different ways of buying data. There's ways you could buy it where you only own the data and they sell directly to you, or they sell it to anyone at a very low cost. So first find that out. Second is then look for any type of systems you're working on, as well as your IP space, and see if there's any botnets or any software that's tied within your own your own networks or your own systems. But I mean, there's a ton of OSN investigators out there who could then go and do that deep dive. If you're looking for tool sets, I'm not going to promote any tool sets out there because they're kind of all internets. But there's like at least 5 of the top. There's 3 or 4 of them that I really I have used in the past that are pretty good, but no one tool is the best. I mean, it's just better just to go out there and just get someone who's done threat intelligence and go in there and do a deep dive analysis to understand your IP space and what's out there and how it affects you. So.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Hacktricks because if you ever want to learn how to do a tool or do a technique, that thing is just a playground of knowledge. If you want to look at OSINT or Linux or Privest, there's so much there. Just if you're looking to grow more, other than just a quick Google search to find things, I recommend trying to go to Hacktricks and look and see what you can find based on those different types of engagements or things that you're trying to test, because it really is amazing.
Yeah,
there's life before Hacktricks and then life after Hacktricks.
I just pulled it. I have it open in another tab right now, and so I just threw it in chat.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it up
Android
on.
one is great.
I mean, another thing is you don't even have to hack networks, right? Like that's what another thing is with targets. You don't have to do anything. you could buy access to all these networks. There's so many access access to networks that you could purchase or rent. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's getting scary what's out there actually, because I remember back 10 years ago, you had to find your own foothold into a company, get in there, try to go underneath the radar, try to maintain. But now you can just go ahead and rent a network from one of the big companies out there and gain full access and do what you want to do. So, I mean, have you come across that, Brandon? And any of the stuff that you guys work on? What do you
Sorry,
do?
could you repeat that last bit, or other Brandon?
These botnets for rent, or where you have clients whose network is basically out for lease or rent on the dark web in a botnet type of settlement.
I think that one's for you, Brandon.
Yeah, I am not a part of that world. I don't know that stuff. As far as purchasing, I know. I'm aware of the existence of the different botnets and the types of systems that they get into, and that there are ransomware groups that once someone gets initial access, they'll sell a cut to to a bigger organization to then come in and do that higher level ransomware. But I don't keep my ear to the ground for that stuff. I'm just kind of do my job and learn techniques. I'm bad about getting on Twitter or the InfoSec exchange and actually reading what people are talking about.
You're kind of talking about like the, I don't know, dare I use like microservices of like ransomware, where you've got like the initial access, you've got the actual malware writers, and you've got stuff like that.
Yeah, they consider it the AWS of malware.
There you go.
You can get a full infrastructure set up with all the botnets you want, all the toolkits you want, everything. Just like you're in AWS, they have interfaces that could turn up EC2 instances, like where you get a Kali Linux with a direct connect to whatever systems you need access to, and then you lease it for like a month or two and have fun. So, I mean, well, you should.
Is there a link to this?
Onion.
I can send you an Onion site too.
Okay.
So we got about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure. I always like to ask this question. We talk so much about tech and studying and learning and doing all these things, dealing with customers, which could be its own week-long episode. Brandon, what do you do to relax from all this? Like, what do you do that's not tech related?
Once I get off work, and I spend time with my 3 kids, so that's not relaxing at all. But I cook, I get out in the sun and make sure I get sunlight, take walks with the dogs. I play app games on the phone. I don't know, sleep, spend time with my wife. It's have a hobby, get into it, get your mind off tech, unplug on the weekends, get on antidepressants.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, I definitely, I as a person who had a very not great upbringing and was really good at kind of not self-care, but going through it. In the last year with 3 kids and moving, and had a really bad job fall apart, and pretty much everyone left, and I was the one with holding the bag. I went. So I'm a family doctor. I didn't have enough vitamin D, and then also I got on antidepressants. I got on SSRIs, and you know what? It's not a bad thing. There shouldn't be a stigma to it. If your brain isn't making enough chemicals to get you through your day, then you can get help. It's not a bad thing. So make sure you're getting sunlight. Midday sun, 20 to 30 minutes. Exercise if you have the time and energy. It just not getting enough vitamin D, it can make you tired, it can make you sad, it can make you fuzzy. Get your blood flowing. You got to take care of your body, and before you can take care of yourself. So yeah.
I can definitely tell personally. Like, I take my dog out for a walk midday. Everybody that's on the call knows that. If I don't do that for 2 to 3 days in a row and don't get that vitamin D, I'm a mess. So yeah,
Yep.
it's shocking what 15 minutes to do.
400 pounds.
What was that, Dev? What are you making fun of me
While
about?
you free weight, while you lift up 400 pounds at a time and bench for whatever it is.
Well, that too, but that's
And
different.
like for us, like that's kind of like the least of the stuff that we do. Like we're compelled to do that. I think I don't think either Jake or I at this point think it's going out of our way to do anything. Like we need other things besides that. It's like, yeah, I don't have an off switch for that. It's actually doing the stuff that is not as severe, right? Like it's doing things like going for a walk. That is so unbelievably hard for me because it's so boring, and I don't feel like it's worth it. Like I know it is. Like thousands of nutritionists and trainers and doctors cannot possibly be wrong, and yet I'm like, that's not worth it. However,
get a lab.
what's that?
Get a black lab. They'll have plenty of energy. They'll take you around.
I just got some kind of, she's like a hound dog mix. Like she's the one that wants to go out. And even still, I'm like, but loading up 500 pounds of something and repeatedly picking up and putting it down, I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. That's the stuff.
Something's wrong with you, Agent.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Wait, go ahead.
Something else that people can work on, you know, when you go on a walk, call someone you like, call someone you love. You know, people, especially us, we're always busy and we're just bad about. I know I'm bad about reaching out to the people I care about in life. If you call someone, that walk is going to go by so quickly. And you know, I'm assuming almost all you guys work from home, like me. Keep in contact with the people in your life, and that's an easy way to do that. You could probably do that. You can call me, whatever. Talk about 3D printing and sous vide.
But there's something about calling people that seems rude to me now. Like, who calls each other? The only other person that I actually call is my friend Chad. Some people might know him as Big Indian Smalls on Twitter. I will call him. He will never answer, ever. And I call him and I leave dad jokes for him on his voicemail. So I did two offensive things in this day and age. I called somebody and I left them a voicemail that they actively have to go listen to. And it's not even going to be worth it.
I mean, Dad didn't even talk to people in his own house. He just texts them the whole time. And then, you know.
I absolutely do. My wife sits, if she works from home, she sits maybe, and my camera freaked out so nobody can see me. But she sits like 5 feet away from me and I will still text. And if she comes in here to ask me a question, it is such a bother. But no, being quite serious, yes, taking walks is good. Calling people is probably good. Depending on who you're calling. And yeah, absolutely. We have like 5 minutes left. Closing thoughts from our people. Brandon.
Me? This is getting confusing.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Tech Brandon. Our Brandon.
Thank you. So I feel like we've totally changed like the dynamic of this now. So I have nothing other than to mention. So I actually told Jake the other day that I had found out that mindfulness videos are available in Teams. So if you use Teams, you've got part of the Headspace app. If you don't know what that is, you can find it in like the insights of Teams. So that's other ways to relax. So yeah, there you go.
Cool. Jake?
Take up a language. Like that's been the thing that's helping me recently. Like when I'm out walking, I'm following along with the Pimsleur language series, learning Spanish. And I'm sure if somebody saw me walking along with my AirPods in, randomly stating, Quiero dos cervezas, they would be like, what's up with that guy? But it makes me feel better, you know? And vitamin D.
Yeah. Yeah, vitamin D. And Dev, closing thoughts from you.
Man. I mean, I have 4 kids, and 2 of them are older, 2 are younger, and the things I regret most is not spending more time and just doing things with them. The 2 older ones, that is. The 2 little ones, I learned my lesson. So board games, we love board games, so we
just make an activity out of it and do it as much as you can. So family is important.
All right, we are up on our time. As always, thanks to Brandon from Red Siege. Any guests that we have are always super thankful when they come on. Dev, despite him not knowing how to work the internet. Jake, despite him not knowing how to work his hair follicles. And Brandon, you're just perfect. So I don't have anything to say about you. TriMarkSecurity.com for all your assessment needs for Azure AD, Microsoft Active Directory, ESXi virtualization, and of course, some purple teaming thrown in with that. Your retaliation against... What's that?
Says the guy whose camera's not working right now.
Yeah, well, whatever. I'm the host. I don't have to explain myself. TriMarkSecurity.com. We'll be back next Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. See you guys later.